it was just magical. I just couldn't find anything to fault in this film. I would go and watch it again in a heartbeat. Dum-dee-dum-dee-dum. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, hello, and welcome again to another episode of Flickering Dreams. This is episode 48, and in today's episode, what we're going to be doing is looking at 3 films this week, so it might be a shorter episode than normal. We're looking at All of Us Strangers, starring Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. We're looking at Baghead, a new horror film out in cinemas this week. And we're also looking ahead to The Zone of Interest, a Oscar-nominated film with Jonathan Glazer. Also, in Any Other Business, we're going to be doing part 2 of looking at the Oscar nominations that were announced the other week. And we're also revealing the results of our way too early Oscar predictions that myself, Andy, and Scott did way back in April of last year. Let's find out who came out on top.
Grief.
Yes, you did.
I must have been in a good mood that day.
You must have been. Okay, we are going to start off then by looking at All of Us Strangers. And what would you say if you could speak to a loved one that's passed? Here's a clip.
Was your mum and dad?
Yeah. They died just before I was 12. I'm trying to write about them at the moment.
How's it going?
Strangely. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, it's giving me chills up my back. One of the big mysteries in life is how on earth Andrew Scott has not been nominated for Best Actor in both the BAFTAs and the Oscars, I have to say. Andy, you've seen All of Us Strangers. Do you want to start?
Yeah, a compelling, moving, loving ghost story. There are basically 2 stories going on here at the same time. We've got Andrew Scott and his relationship with Paul Mescal and their burgeoning friendship and love. We've then got Andrew Scott visiting his parents, who are the same age as him, apparently, and are having to come to terms with the fact that they died quite a few years ago and what the real world is like, including the fact that their son is gay. This is a very interesting look at how attitudes have changed over the years. It's a very interesting social commentary, I think, on the way the world was and the way the world is now, and obviously the world is changing for the better. And I think that it was very moving and very compelling, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lovely, lovely film.
Indeed. Emma, you've seen it as well?
Yeah, I can't say I really disagree with anything that was said there. I saw this at the film festival last year. Pretty much the entire audience was bawling their eyes out at it. Same for this. I went and saw it again, obviously, when it came out last week. And yeah, same again. I was just crying my eyes out. I absolutely adored it. I thought all of the acting was very good. And, you know, for 4 main stars, it was incredible how much bigger the world felt than the fact it was just them.
Yes, it struck me afterwards when I was writing my review. Good and I was noting down who the lead actors were, and I thought, well, there's only 4 people in it, apart from a bunch of extras in a nightclub. That's it. And it's surprisingly tight, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And as you say, you know, I think it's a travesty that neither Scott nor Mescal got nominations. To be quite frank, any of them. I think it certainly deserved a lot more recognition than it has received.
I think to be fair, Paul Mescal and Claire Foy got BAFTA supporting actor noms. I think I'm right in saying that. But why those 2 and Andrew Scott does not? Well, I guess these are, as we talked about last week, all of these are separate categories, and it's a fight in each category. But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was just magical, really. I thought it was a piece of film, right from that opening flash of light that comes as the sun rises, which is then repeated right at the end of the film. What does it mean, right? Is it a portal opening? Is it blah, blah, blah? Right from that point onwards, the whole thing is just a wonderful, mystical love story. And it's done in such a matter-of-fact way that he keeps turning up and it's bound to that, right? And I thought that was just wonderful. The relationship there between Claire Foy and Andrew Scott's character was superb. And as you said, Andy, relating the fact that gay is not a terrible thing to be ashamed of now was really insightful. I thought the same thing when I saw the film Pride that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, Pride was a film that I sat and wept during the end credits of that.
It just strikes you just how much society has come on in whatever it is, 30 years. And this film I thought was very clever in doing that as well. I thought it was amazing as well. I mean, the director is Andrew Haigh, that Andy and I saw at the BFI a few months ago. And that house that they filmed it in was his own house where he grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, what a personal film to make in that situation. Sorry, my printer's being noisy. Shut up, printer. I said, be quiet. Okay. So I thought the cinematography was wonderful as well. So many kind of shots through windows where you kind of just had Andrew Scott reflected in it and so on.
The lovely balanced score as well between... There was a touch of the old-time period and a touch of the new. I thought the score and the use of songs...
Yes, and the score was by...
The songs that they chose was really excellent.
Score was by Emily Yalbala.
Yeah, I should know.
Farouche, I can't remember her name now. Name's gone completely. But I thought the score was excellent in just pitching it just the wrong side of creepiness. As a score, it was terrific, and the music as well. The 80s music. And there's a point around a Christmas tree where his mum starts singing along to the song, looking at Adam, played by Andrew Scott. I lost it. I'm afraid I completely lost it at that point. It's so beautifully and cleverly done. And without any spoilers, there's a twist in the tale that I didn't see coming. I wondered where this was going to go and how this was going to end, and it was just magical. I mean, I
was so engrossed in the film before that I didn't catch on either.
I just couldn't find anything to fault in this film. I thought I would go and watch it again in a heartbeat. So this was a clear, easy 10 out of 10 for me as a score. Emma?
Yeah, it's a 10. 10 for me.
And Andy?
9 for me.
9 for you. Oh, that's going to make life difficult.
It's still a hit.
So that's 29 divided by 3 is definitely going to be 9.33, isn't it?
It's a hit.
9.33 times. Yeah. Which makes it a hit. Yes. Terrific. You going to see this one, Scott?
If I can get a chance. It's hard to fit them all in.
Get a chance to see this one.
I'll see what I can do.
Make it.
Highly recommend.
This is it's gone straight into my films of the year list for this year, without a doubt, and maybe very near the top, I have to say. So that is All of the Strangers. We're now going to do our film quiz, if I can find the introductory music. I've lost it.
And they can prayer ensues.
Oh, it's gone. There we go. Okay, that'll have to do. Now, Dan can't be with us today, but he did want to do the film quiz. So I did a personal little session with Dan earlier. And I have to say that Dan got the film quiz in 1 today.
Oh, no.
Not to put any pressure on you, but he earned
no pressure at all,
50 points. So here comes picture number 1. Again, for those of you who don't know this, you need to identify the film in 5 pictures, or hopefully less. Here's picture number 1. Yeah, surely it's the Meg 2.
This is definitely not the Meg 2.
Oh.
I think I know it, and I don't want to write it down in case I'm wrong.
I'm writing it
very
down, Bob.
tempted. Ooh.
Oh, Andy's going for it. Okay, you gonna write anything? minus 10 points if you get it wrong. But
I know.
nope. Okay. Here comes picture number 2.
Oh, I'm not so sure now.
I'm glad I didn't write it down on one.
Here comes picture number 3.
Oh, I'm completely wrong.
Oh, Scott's writing. And
If I've written something down, can I write something else down, or is that
yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Here's picture number 4. And here's, have you finished writing? Picture number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Show-
indeed, Emma.
Show me what you've got. I'm going to need a piece of
Well-
paper for this one.
Oh,
just
damn it.
down a little bit, Scott, because I can't see the top. Yeah, okay. You've got Finding
Nemo.
Dory, have you, in 3?
I put Nemo.
After 2, Nemo.
You put
Yeah.
Nemo after
Finding
2. Did
Nemo,
you put anything
yeah.
else? You put something
My
at 5?
initial thought was Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
Oh, right.
Actually, yeah, I can see that. Okay.
So Andy had 2 wrong guesses there, I have to say. And
It's Dory, is it?
And Emma, what did you put? You put Finding Nemo
I
at
put
2?
Nemo. It's Dory, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Oh.
I haven't
It
seen
is.
it.
Well done, Scott. Well done.
Thanks.
Emma, 1 times 1. The answer is Finding Dory. Amazingly, this film is number 46 in the all-time
That's really
top
high.
Really?
box office films.
Really?
Yeah. The power of the young dollar. Yeah. So on that round then, Scott has got 30 points. That moves him into first place with 280. Andy got 2 wrong answers, so he's minus 20 points, which takes him down to 200 points. And Emma is 1 wrong answer, minus 10, which takes her down to 240 points.
I'm going to salt until the next show.
And Dan
Yeah,
is
I'm
on
gonna-
140 points, so starting to creep up on you guys.
Well, if you get it after the first one, oh, dear.
That was
Yeah, there
very
you go.
impressive.
He knew
Very
that.
impressive.
He knew that. Okay, we are going back to the films now, and a film called Baghead. And what would you say if you could speak to loved ones who have passed? Here's a clip.
I'm the solicitor of your father's estate.
My dad owned this place. I don't have any memories with him. This is all I have right now.
If you're watching this, then I'm already dead. This property comes with a special tenant. You're the one thing that stands between her and the outside world.
Yeah, so I've seen Baghead. I saw it this afternoon. Andy, you've seen it. Anybody else seen it? Emma?
I didn't
No,
manage to
just
get
in
to
rec-
it in the end. They
Okay,
cancelled
so-
my screening.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Shame.
Weren't you blessed? Wow, you were so lucky.
Yeah, well, I used exactly the same intro there for Baghead as I did for All of Us Strangers, you might have noticed, because we're in curiously familiar territory here in being able to communicate with dead people. This film, though, is much more mainstream, bog standard horror than All of Us Strangers ever could be. It's most strikingly similar, in fact, to the Australian horror from last year, Speak to Me, because that is virtually the same plot. There is a woman stuck in a basement, some mystical creature that if you give her something belonging to a person who's passed, that person will then reappear and re-inhabit Baghead and talk to you, but you've only got a very limited time to do it before things go awry, very much like Talk to Me was. So it's almost the exact plot of Talk to Me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it per se. It's quite nicely filmed, I thought. It's done at Babelsberg Studios, and nice sets, nice atmosphere to the film. And the acting is good. There's Freya Allen plays the young girl there at the heart of the movie. Jeremy Irvine, ex of Warhorse and Mamma Mia, plays one of the customers, shall we say, who wants to contact somebody. Ruby Barker is her friend, and Peter Mullen, you saw there on the video, plays the father. So the acting's good. It just wasn't remotely scary. Well, not for me anyway. Everything that happened, I could see was going to happen in terms of the jump scares. And as such, there was nothing there that kind of made me go, whoa. I wish I wasn't watching this on my own in the dark, which indeed I was at this particular showing this afternoon. No, absolutely nothing. There was quite a nice twist to the story at the end, which in some ways, there was a nice twist at the end of Talk to Me as well, I thought. And there was quite a nice twist to the story that happens in the final reel of this film, which I didn't see coming. So, yeah, that lifted it up a little bit for me. Andy, any other comments on this?
The biggest horror about this is it's not a horror. I mean, it markets itself as a horror film, and there's no sense of horror. There's no sense of tension. There's nothing to make you jump. There's nothing to scare you. There's nothing to make you uneasy. I agree about the twist in the final reel, which I did not see coming, and I thought that actually was quite good. However, what worries me is that a new horror franchise that we really don't need or want has been born, bearing in mind the ending, because I can see this going down the same sort of road as the Conjuring series and the Nun films in particular. I thought it was okay. I mean, I thought it was okay. When was the last time you saw a horror film that really made you go jump out your skin, that really scared you? For me, it was Mother, which goes back before the pandemic, and I saw that 3 times at the cinema and was unnerved out of my skin every time.
Yeah.
No, when was the last time we had a really proper, genuinely scary, creepy horror film?
That Rebecca Hall film, The Night House. I think that was quite
well done. It was okay, but you look at things like the swimming pool one the other week, and what are these writers thinking? They're not scaring us. These are just cheap horror movies that are being churned out. And really are not doing great business. How these people are staying in business is beyond me.
Yep.
And really not doing the job as advertised. And I just worry for the genre at the moment. But if there's going to be another one, I'm not exactly going to be rushing to see it.
No. Yeah, score out of 10. I was kind of in the low figures until that little twist in the ending. So in the end, I gave this a 5 out of 10.
Well, because of the twist in the ending, I gave it a 6.
6. Okay, so that's a Flickering Dreams score of 5.5 for.
Let's have some decent horror films, please.
Baghead, which does make it a miss. So you might want to reconsider, Emma. Let's take a look.
Give it a 10. Emma will love it.
Could be Saw X and Mean Girls all over again next week. Let's take a quick look at the top 10 for this week. And in the top 10, we have, as I think was predicted last week, we've got Mean Girls still at number 1. I think Dan predicted that either Mean Girls or Wonka would be at number 1 again this week. And he's right, because Mean Girls is there. It's made over 5 million quid, which isn't bad. Second place is All of Us Strangers, which is first week in the charts and has done deservedly good business, and hopefully word of mouth will get more people to go and see that this week, because it's a majestic film. There's Wonka, still at number 3, 8 weeks in the chart, just about scraping 60 million quid at the box office, which is great. Still at number 4 is Anyone But You, Andy's favourite. And 6 weeks in the chart, over £8 million. That's not doing bad. And number 5 is Poor Things, which I went to see again this week. And I have to say, I meant to revisit my rating in my review. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I'd certainly push it to 4.5 on second viewing. I think it is a a wonderful film, actually. I think it's really, really cleverly done. At number 6, The Holdovers that we reviewed last week, second week in the chart, doing decent business. At number 7 is Fighter, which I think is a new Hindi film, not one that I've seen. At number 8 is The Color Purple. It says first week in the chart there. Oh, yes, it did come out last Friday, didn't it? Not doing particularly good business, hasn't made £500,000 at the box office as yet, so it's not going to set the box office light, is it? At number 9, still hanging in there, 5 weeks in the chart, is One Life with Anthony Hopkins. Again, made £8.5 million, which is pretty good. And still clinging on there at number 10 is The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. And that's getting close to £3 million, but still hanging in there. What will be next week? We've got quite a few new films coming out next week. We've got Migration coming out. You should have these on the top of my head, and they've gone completely.
Argyle and American Fiction.
Argyle, yeah.
Argyle and American Fiction. American Fiction. Definitely go and see American Fiction. I could probably see Argyle hitting the top spot maybe next week, but
probably.
I think a lot of people
I'm seeing that
have
tomorrow.
a bit of fun and see that one. Okay, we are back to the films, and we're looking ahead here. It's a film I have not seen yet, but I think this one could be a little bit divisive amongst the team. This is Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest. Scott, do you want to introduce this to us?
Okay, so Zone of Interest sees a Nazi commandant and his family living next door to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Here's a clip.
Who's going to start? Let's start with Andy, I think, on the Zone of
Well,
Interest.
I want to preface my comments on this by saying I've been to Auschwitz on a number of occasions, at least half a dozen times. And always one of the more shocking sights is the lovely house across the way from the fence, behind which is gas chamber number 1. It's got a nice white picket fence around it, nice curtains, everything else, a big garden at the back. And I found it an absolutely horrific sight. I mean, it's not when you stand in gas chamber number 1, which we see at the end of the film, which is the only gas chamber left standing. That is obviously horrific. When you see the displays, which we see at the end of the film, all the shoes, thousands of shoes in glass cabinet, thousands of suitcases. What they don't show in the film is there's one glass cabinet with 5,000 scalps in it that's still got ponytails with ribbons in. So there are signs when you walk around Auschwitz that say, do not talk, keep silent. And you don't feel like talking when you're walking around there, believe me. And if any of you have been, you'll know what I mean. So to see the domestic bliss in which the commandant and his family were living just across the road is horrifying to see this. And this film, I think, brilliantly for me, just by use of sound, just by use of the odd shot of the chimney churning out the cremated ashes of the dead bodies, is horrific in its own way. So it's as horrific as seeing anything going on in the camp, because it portrays the coldness, the brutality, the inhumanity of those that were perpetrating the crimes. And while people are dying, we just over the other side of the garden fence, the commandant and his family and friends are picnicking and partying. And I think this film based on Martin Amis' novel, does an absolutely brilliant job of showing a side of Auschwitz that has never been seen before, but which is absolutely historically accurate. There's one scene where a little boy is playing upstairs in his bedroom with his cars, and we hear the sound through his bedroom window of a Jewish prisoner being shot and screaming and then being shot, and the little boy just carries on playing as if this is normal everyday life, normal everyday, which it was. So I found the film as horrific as The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. I found it as horrific as Schindler's List. I found it as horrific as Son of Saul. Not because it shows what's actually happening in the camp. It doesn't. That's only by the use of sound and just the odd visual as the camera pans up over the garden fence. but because it shows the sheer inhumanity, the sheer callousness. I mean, we saw in that trailer, Rudolph has his wife wearing a fur coat, which is one of the things that had been taken off one of the prisoners, and she's wearing it and doesn't think anything of it, and they're even throwing away stuff, that they've taken off prisoners because it's not up to one scratch or whatever. I thought this film was brutal. I thought it was horrific in its own particular way, without showing us what was happening in the camp, but showing us what was happening outside with those perpetrating the crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a fan of the director's previous film, Under the Skin. I know some people are going to say this is a bit slow. This is a bit. I mean, we open on a black screen with a somber overture for 2 or 3 minutes at least. So it's an acquired taste, I think, the film. But I think the film is an important film because in its own way it demonstrates the inhumanity, the cruelty, the brutality, the sheer evil that was happening in the camp while those perpetrating it partied and picnicked. Mm-hmm. So for me, this was an important film, horrific film, and I think a necessary film.
Okay. Scott.
So, some people. I'm one of those some people. This film, I was really looking forward to it. I thought the trailer looked interesting, and it's the kind of subject matter where I really enjoy that sort of World War II history. From that opening shot that Andy mentioned, we get in, the film's way to start, and then it's just a black screen for however many, 2, 3, 4, whatever minutes with the music playing, and I'm already sitting in my seat going, get on with it. Come on, let's start the movie, please. And I was like, okay, this is just dragging and dragging. It reminded me a little bit like Roma, where at the start, it's just that opening shot and it just like, stop it. Just get the movie beginning. And then even as it begins, this movie is so much just long, drawn-out shots of people doing ordinary things, really nothing happening for the vast majority of this film. We watch people cleaning or eating or sleeping, and it's just this camera shot held on them. Yes, there might be some creative sound design here and there, but it's so boring, and I'm going to use a word that will upset some people. I think it's a bit pretentious. At the same time, Jonathan Glazer, I was not a fan of Under the Skin, despite being set in Scotland. He's a very strange director. He does make weird movies, and he's not ashamed of the fact that he makes weird movies. And I think he is the type of director who doesn't mind the fact that some people might hate it. He just makes what he thinks what he wants to make. But, I don't walk out of movies, and I didn't walk out of this one. But it's the first time in quite a few years where I was sitting in the cinema and I was very, very tempted. And I was sitting there at some point being like, this is actually frustrating me to the point where I'm just angry at the fact that I'm wasting a Saturday evening. I'm watching something where literally nothing's happening. I was just so bored the whole time.
Can I just ask a question? Did you know the story, though? Did you know that the commandant and his family were living opposite the camp and picnicking and partying while the horror was unfolding in the camp? Did you know about that? Just generally asking, yeah.
The thing is, I understand from like an academic point of view what he was doing, and I understand the idea of the horror is how calm and normal everything's meant to look when such tragedies are going on next door. I understand what he was going for. It's just not the type of thing. It's the subtlety of the occasional scream or the occasional smoke. Give me the boy in striped pajamas. Give me these films that will look into the actual horrors and atrocities and hit that on an emotional level for me. I thought the coldness that you speak about, the characters, I just felt the film as a whole was just very cold because I didn't care about them, obviously, and they didn't give us anyone to care about. So we're just watching people living ordinary lives, doing nothing interesting. And that just really frustrated me so much. And so I was massively disappointed.
Last week I was promoting that other podcast. There are other movie podcasts called Countdown to the BAFTAs with Alex Zane. And one of them, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to them, but one of them is on the Zone of Interest with the producer. And one of the things that struck me was there was a lot of talk about, we need to get the location, and they couldn't get the actual house, but they had one just down the road.
I noticed it wasn't the actual house.
And we need to get the mood, and we need to decide how we're going to set this, and are we actually going to call it Auschwitz as opposed to the unnamed concentration camp in the book, etc., etc. But very late in that kind of discussion, they said, and we need to work out what the story's going to be. So it did strike me that said this is a mood piece, and the story is something of an afterthought that has been paintbrushed on. This is me without having seen the film. It's just my impression from that description of the film given by the producers. So I guess again, I'm curious to know what I'm going to feel when I go and watch this. I mean, it is one of the 10 Oscar-nominated films, so must be a lot of people who think an awful lot of it in the business. So we will see. I suspect the scores are going to be quite varied here. This could be one for the end of the year statistics. Andy, what did you give Zone of Interest?
Generally because I think it's such an important film, and I think such a fresh take on Auschwitz, giving us the other side of the story. I genuinely thought it was an important film. I gave it a 9.
9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Scott?
This is going to be a 2 out of 10 movie.
Wow. Okay.
It is a diverse score.
Very diverse.
That is a Flickering Dreams score.
Is that the most diverse we've ever had?
I think it's getting there. Yes, I think it's getting there. That's a Flickering Dreams score of 5.5, making Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest a miss from the team of 2. Maybe if Emma and I see it, we will revisit this in a later week. Zone of Interest.
Sadly, neither of my local cinemas are showing it. Well, none of my local Cineworlds are showing it this week.
Are they not?
Actually, mine aren't either. So
okay.
Mine is limited screening.
Cineworld.
Well, sort of.
Yeah. Cineworld here is.
Every man is showing it for sure. Yeah. Okay. So I thought that might be a little bit contentious. That's the end of the films we're reviewing this week. We've got
just to say the subject isn't contentious. We're both agreed on the whole.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely not
the film itself as a film. Yeah,
I've never been to Auschwitz or indeed any of the concentration camps. I have been to the killing fields in Cambodia, and that was a very similar kind of somber experience. It's they are quite remarkable places to go. Okay, any other business? I am going to give Andy the opportunity to say the words Typist Artist Pirate King without a £5 fine, because you just wanted to mention that the Blu-ray is out.
The Blu-ray is available. So the story of Audrey Amos, much overlooked British artist. Much to my joy, when the Blu-ray arrived, we get 6 art cards showcasing Audrey Amos's work. My favourite, which is showcased in the film, is this one, and you probably can't see it. It's entitled. This is typical of Audrey Amos's humour. It's entitled Two Girls Talking. There's only one girl in the picture, and she's written at the bottom, "No time to draw second girl." And it's kind of indicative of this lady's humour. This lady had this mental instability. For me, as you know, the best film of last year. I mean, there are endorsements all over the DVD. Giving it 5 stars everywhere. No, I'm not on here at all. I actually rang Carol this week and told her how upset I was that I'm not quoted on the cover. She's promised to send me a signed poster by way of compensation, genuinely. But Rolling Stone, for example, at the top, their best British film of the year. I know you guys haven't seen it yet. See it. Just see it.
We'll try and see it. It must be streaming soon, I guess.
It's available to rent, but yes, it will come streaming soon. Yeah.
Second piece of any other business, let's look at the rest of the Oscar nominations that we didn't get to last week. Andy can have his customary snooze here. So we did the major awards last week. If you want to look back at those, you can do. Best Adapted Screenplay category, nominations are American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. I have to say, the one that leaps out of that as a WTF nomination is Barbie. How can you have Barbie as a best adapted screenplay when the adaptation is from a doll box description? That struck me as utterly ludicrous, and the Academy really needs to have a rethink about that. There must be other adapted screenplays that could have gone into there. Yep, and moving on, because there are still quite a lot of these categories. Best Original Screenplay, the nominations are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. I'd really like Past Lives to win that one, because it's not well represented at the Oscars. I could see Anatomy of a Fall winning it, though.
I think Anatomy of Fall's my winner there.
Yeah, I'd like.
I wouldn't mind the Holdovers.
Yes, indeed. We were praising the writing of that last week, weren't we? Moving on, Best Original Song, and
you can't deny Diane Warren every year.
Diane Warren, yeah, she must have as many nominations now as John Williams. I'm guessing
she's up there.
She must be up there, yeah. So nominations are The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot. Emma was a big advocate for earlier last year. Written by Diane Warren. I'm Just Ken from Barbie, written by Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt. It Never Went Away from American Symphony, which I don't think we've seen in the UK. That's
on Netflix. I've saw.
Oh,
that
is
one.
it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's John Batiste and Dan Wilson.
Really sad song. It's good.
Wahazi, a song for my people from Killers of the Flower Moon, written by Scott George, and What Was I Made For from Barbie, written by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell. I guess the surprise there is that they picked I'm Just Ken instead of Dance the Night Away from Barbie for me, because
that's not a surprise, Bob.
Absolutely win.
Yeah. But I think they've picked I'm Just Ken just because they want to see it performed on the stage.
To be fair, that song's been getting at the other award shows as well that have song category.
Has it? Okay.
It's Dance the Night Away that's been the one that's missed the most.
Was Dance the Night Away an original song, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All three of them have been getting in a lot of award shows, but the Oscars have a rule that only 2 songs from one film can get in. I think if they didn't have that rule, probably all 3 would have got there.
Which was not the case at the Golden Globes. So all 3 of them were at the Golden Globes, weren't they? Yeah.
Yep.
I think probably what Was I Made For is likely to pick that, but
probably
I'm Just Ken stands a chance, maybe. Yeah. Moving on. Best Original Score. Here we've got. Just wanted to say on Best Original Song, I was surprised that the Lenny Kravitz song from Rustin wasn't in that. I thought that had Oscar written all over it myself, but clearly missed the cut. Best Original Score, American Fiction, which is an interesting score, very jazz-oriented score. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
I wonder if Indiana Jones might do well, because it's reckoned probably to be John Williams' last ever score. And there might be a bit of a sympathy kind of let's honour him vote there.
He doesn't need another nomination.
He didn't need nomination.
No, I know.
I think it's very odd. It's a very odd nomination, I think, that one, because I don't think it. I'm a biggest John Williams soundtrack fan of all time, and I don't particularly rate the Dial of Destiny soundtrack.
I've got the CD. The CD came out on a limited edition CD, and actually, it is a good listen.
Yeah. So
I'm not a big fan, but the animated films that got just snubbed here, you could have went Spider-Man, you could have went Elemental, you could have went Boy in the Heron, all would have been more deserving.
That's a bit of an odd bunch. I think that's probably going to go down for Oppenheimer for Hans Zimmer, because he got the Golden Globe
Ludwig
as well.
Göransson was Oppenheimer.
Ludwig Göransson, yes, sorry. Yeah. It's his mentor, isn't he? But it'd be interesting if Poor Things did it. I have to say, it's a bizarre soundtrack, but it's
I
very,
listened
very
to
different.
it last night, and I forgot how utterly odd it was.
Utterly batshit crazy of a score. Yes. Again, we saw the composer. What's his name? Jerskin. His name's gone.
Oh,
him. Anyway, at the BFI a couple of months ago, and I'm sure he's really pleased to get a nomination, but it's outside chance he could actually pop that.
I mean, if you're going to put that in, put the score from Zone of Interest in, Scott?
I mean, for how it's used, in my predictions, I did say Zone of Interest.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's not really a score, is it? It's a little bit at the start, a little bit at the end. There isn't really much music in the actual film itself.
It's true.
The only other possible outsider there might be Killers of the Flower Moon, because it was released after Robbie Robertson died last year. So it's a posthumous nomination. I know how the Academy sometimes goes for posthumous composers. It is a good soundtrack. So I think it's possible it could go a number of different ways. That award. Best animated feature. Here's the one that you wanted from last week, Emma. The nominations are The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, which I'd never heard of, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. No Disney Wish in there, which I think, given its reception, is not a surprise, but I bet they're disappointed. Where do we think that might go?
It'll be Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be Spider-Man or Boy and the Heron would be mine. I'm like really surprised to see Robot Dreams there, because I saw that at the festival last year. It is lovely. I don't know how it got nominated into this category. I genuinely don't. It is absolutely fantastic, but not one that I
special.
Felt like raving about. I enjoyed it. I thought it was unusual. Yeah.
We will see.
I don't see it doing well against its competition here, unfortunately.
Okay. We will see. Best documentary feature, we got Bobby Wine, The People's President, The Eternal Memory, Four Daughters, which seems to have a bit of buzz about it, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol, which also seems to have a lot of buzz. So I would have thought that's probably between Four Daughters and 20 Days in Mariupol. But having not seen a single one of those, I have some watching to do before March the 8th or whenever it is. Best costume design, we got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I have to say, having just watched Poor Things again, I kept thinking this is going to sweep up the technical awards, and this was one that I thought maybe would go to Poor Things, although Barbie probably stands a chance as well. I'll skip on because we're getting short of time here. And best makeup and hair, we've got Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Don't know where that might go. We'll talk about our predictions nearer the time. I guess Maestro had some pretty fancy makeup, didn't it, for Bradley Cooper? They call him Bradley Walsh. That would have been good makeup. Moving forwards, best production design, we got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things again. And I have to say, my money would be on Poor Things for that one. Next category is Best Sound. And for that, we've got The Creator, which I was really pleased to see in that list. Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest.
Got to not see Ferrari in there.
Yeah, I was surprised that Ferrari got left out of there. I mean, we just talked about The Zone of Interest and how important sound was in that mix. So could go there. I mean, everybody I've seen lots and lots of reviews of The Creator, and everybody's review, including mine, said the sound is absolutely incredible in that film. So in terms of where I'd like it to go, I think The Creator would be my choice, but probably won't. Best film editing, we got Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I'm not a professional editor, so I don't know. Best visual effects, we got a film, I don't know whether this has come out in the UK or not, called El Conde.
It was on Netflix.
Oh, is it again? Okay. Right, I'll get to look at that then. Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. It's somewhat ironic that Oppenheimer is nominated for Best Visual Effects, given Christopher Nolan doesn't use any VFX. But there you go. I guess that includes practical effects as well. And we're nearly at the end, I think, with... Oh, it's just the shorts, and I won't go through those now. You can look them up on the web if you're interested. I will actually try and get to see all of the best live shorts, the best animated shorts, and the best documentary shorts, because I do find them interesting, and I did love going into the Oscar night, having actually seen all the films. It made it so much more entertaining having those categories. Okay, final thing we're going to look at before we close is our early prediction. So on April the 5th, Scott, Andy, and myself. Emma, you were not on board the podcast at that point. We did our predictions as to what the top films would be in the 10 lists selected for the Oscars. So let's see how we did, shall we? So we're going to start off here with films that didn't make the year. So some of the ones that we talked about in those lists actually didn't make the year. So June Part 2, which we all had in our top 10, didn't make the cut for next year. It got pushed out into this year. Roosevelt, Martin Scorsese's film, that never made it into this year. I think it was optimistic of me to think it would. And one of your standby lists, Scott, was Shirley, which also didn't make the list. Now,
Don't call me Shirley.
Scott and I actually listed some standby films in priority order. So for the case of June 2, I've shuffled those top choices into the list in terms of marking it. Andy didn't, so he's got a score out of 9, as it were, but I've done a percentage score. So here comes Scott's list, and whether or not they made the list or not. We've got Ferrari, nope. Killers of the Flower Moon, yes. Maestro, yes. Napoleon, nope. Next Goal Wins, nope. Oppenheimer, yes. Past Lives, yes. Poor Things, yes. Saltburn, no. Colour Purple, no. So that was a score of 50% for Scott. It's definitely beatable. Andy? Elemental, no. Ferrari, no. Killers of the Flower Moon, yes. Maestro, yes. Napoleon, no. Next Girl Wins, no. Oppenheimer, yes. The Colour Purple, no. The Killer, no. And then he didn't have a placeholder, so it's marked out of 9. So he's got a score of 33%, which is really, really, really annoying for reasons we'll come to in a minute. And here's my results. Air, no. Asteroid City, no. Beau is Afraid, no. Ferrari, no. Thank God for that. Killers of the Flower Moon. Maestro. Napoleon, no. Oppenheimer, yes. Roosevelt, which I actually swapped in there. Next Girl Wins. And The Killer, no. So I got 30% because I did it out of 10. So Andy, blast, you beat me.
And I'm the one who doesn't get tuppence about the Oscars.
I know, you rascal. So congratulations to Scott. If you, dear viewer or listener,
forget not getting Finding Dory earlier.
Yeah,
I'm happy now.
Dear viewer or listener, if you want to place bets on the Oscars, don't pick your films yourself. Just pick Scott's picks and put a bet on them. That's always advisable. Okay, so well done.
Who of us saw Napoleon not getting?
Yeah, well,
there's a few that were close. Napoleon, Colour Purple, Saltburn. They were on the cusp.
If June 2 hadn't been delayed, surely it would have been up for at least every technical award going.
I think it would.
I'm guessing we're all going to pick that for this year.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
if we do this again after the Oscars.
I mean, Hans Zimmer will be doing the score, and
Yeah.
And I make one quick AOB. That I noticed this today. I don't know how much you're interested in the new DCU that is coming out, but I noticed that House of the Dragon star Millie Alcock has been cast as Supergirl, which, though that's one of the big films that I think James Gunn's going to direct himself, and this could be very exciting. She's amazing in House of the Dragon, if you've seen that TV show, the Game of Thrones spin-off. And yeah, just thought that's going to be really good casting, and that's going to be an exciting film to look out for.
Right. That's so he's completely ditched the young actress who played Supergirl in The Flash then.
Yeah.
She must be feeling pissed off anyway. Okay, guys, that's it for this episode of Flickering Dreams. Thanks for joining us. If you see the little symbol of me being Bond in the middle of your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, come up, please click on it and subscribe to Flickering Dreams. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
God bless. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.